So Fires of Yavimaya was an uncommon that was printed in Invasion. It is 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 green enchantment. Creatures you control have haste, and you can sacrifice Fires of Yavimaya to give a target creature +2/+2 until end of turn. I love this card because I like aggro decks. I like creature decks. I also like cheap cards. This card's only $1.51. This card is the centerpiece of an aggro deck that has a lot of ramp, undercosted green creatures, in red removal. So I've been reading about these Fires decks that hit the scene like in the year 2000. In the year 2000, when I think Invasion was printed, maybe 99, somewhere around there. And what makes those decks really great is the combination of this card with also overpowered creatures that had the fading mechanic.
You have a way now to squeeze some extra efficiency out of the the number of turns you get with that creature who is fading.
Yes. So these fading creatures, they tend to be overpowered for their cost, but they come with that downside that they're only around for a few turns. If you play one of them when they have haste, you get that whole extra turn out of them.
Yeah.
And like I said, because they tend to be overpowered, that's an extra turn with a 4/4 or a 5/5 or a 6/6. That can be enough to end the game quickly. What would be the ideal turn for a Fires deck? The ideal turn would be a land, a manimal, like a Llanowar Elf or a Bird of Paradise. And then turn 2, you play another land and you got your Fires out. Turn 3, you play a forecasting cost creature. I'm going to start by going through the creatures of Fire of Yavimaya. What are the big fading creatures that people want to play with this card? First one I'll talk about is Blastoderm, Alex. Blastoderm. Everybody knows
he's back.
Everybody knows Blastoderm probably because it was featured in episode 2 of the Old Ben Magic podcast. It's even in our thumbnail. That was back in the day when we were first looking through a lot of these pre-modern legal sets. And I was like, look at all these badass creatures for under $1. Well, Blastoderm is still under $1. It is a common from Nemesis. It has had no major reprints. It was just really reprinted in like World Championships, dual decks, promo cards.
Oh, okay, interesting.
It is 2 colorless, 2 green to play. It is a summon beast. It is 5/5 with fading 3. And Blastoderm can't be the target of spells or abilities. So the dream of a Fires player is to attack with this guy on turn 3. Who doesn't want to attack with a 5/5 on turn 3? That would be awesome. Land, Manimal, land, Fires, land, Blastoderm with haste. One of the other big fading cards, creatures specifically, although kind of not a creature, but also a creature, is Sapperling Burst. I don't know if you've seen Sapperling Burst.
No, I saw it when I read what you posted, but
just in the notes.
This is new to me. Yeah, it looks pretty fun.
Sapperling Burst is awesome in this deck and awesome with any kind of haste enabler. It is a rare from Nemesis. Like Blastoderm, there have been no major reprints, just World Championship decks from around the time this was first printed. It is 4 colorless, 1 green, and it is an enchantment. So it has fading 7. You remove a fade counter from Sapperling Burst to put a green Sapperling token into play. The token has this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of fade counters on Sapperling Burst. When Sapperling Burst leaves play, destroy all tokens put into play with Sapperling Burst. They can't be regenerated.
Okay, so when you cast this, and then you decide to make, if you make all your Sapperling tokens immediately, you can make 1/6/6 Sapperling, right? Or 2 5/5s.
2 5/5s.
Okay. 3 4/4s.
3 4/4s.
Okay.
I think I would go 3 4/4s. That's 12 damage as opposed to 10 damage or 6 damage. If you wanted to maximize the damage, do you go 3 4/4s?
Depends on their blocker situation, I guess,
Depends on their blockers. Depends on what kind of removal they're running. If they're running some cards that can damage something for 4, but not for 5, you don't want to risk the 4. You can play this with mana acceleration, with mana ramp. Let's say you play this on turn 4 in a fires deck. And if you have fires out, you swing the turn you play it for 10 or 12. Considering putting this in the pump, I don't know. We shall see. Sapling Burst has a rating of 4.343 on Gatherer, a current market price of 153. This is the big baddie in the Fires of Yavimaya deck, it seems like to me. This is the one that could do the most damage. The next creature that I see appear in a lot of Fires of Yavimaya decks is Flame Tongue Kavu. Have you ever played with a Flame Tongue Kavu, Alex?
No.
Neither have I. It is an uncommon from Plane Shift. This one has had many reprints, including recently in Dominaria Remastered.
Okay.
It is 3 colorless, 1 red. Summon Kavu. 4/2. When Flame Tongue Kavu comes into play, it deals 4 damage to target creature. So this is a great creature removal in the form of a creature itself.
Yeah.
This blows Sarah Angels out of the sky, which nobody cares about any longer, but we care about that. Sangiers blows them out.
I like that it's a 4/2. That's like an unusual power toughness, combo. It makes him kind of like a glass cannon offensive creature kind of guy. Only downside to him is that I think it says in the rulings that if there are no other creatures out, he has to deal 4 damage to himself.
Yeah, so that is a problem. So this was it. Yeah, I saw this in the rulings. Flame Tongue Kavu's ability can target itself. If it's the only creature on the battlefield as its ability triggers, its ability must target itself. So if you have no creatures on the battlefield, if your opponent have no creatures on the battlefield, you don't want to play your Flame Tongue Kavu because you'll just be wasting 4 mana. In the context of this deck, like the Sapling Burst, this is another reason why you want to make your Sapling bigger, I guess. Maybe if you want to play a Kavu next turn or something, you want to have 5/5s out on the board instead of 4/4s. Because your Sapling Burst, your Sapling tokens, if they're 5/5, they can survive a Kavu hit on the board. Your Blastoderm's a 5/5. It can survive a Kavu hitting the board. Although a Blastoderm also says it can't be targeted.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I just thought about that, of spells or abilities. So yeah, you don't want to play this guy either when you just have a Blastoderm on the board then.
Oh, yeah.
Because then it would just target itself.
Yeah.
So I guess that's one downside that I didn't think of. But the other thing is, maybe he'll eat a bird or an elf or something if your opponent is not playing with creatures. But yeah. I don't know. You're into the game. You're 4 turns into the game, maybe 5 turns into the game. Maybe you don't mind sacrificing your bird or your elf at that point to get a 4-power creature on the board. 4.346 on Gatherer, current market price of 29 cents. Another thing you might be noticing a trend, Alex. Another thing I like about this deck. All these cards are cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cheap deck to put together. Next creature that I like in a Fires of Yavimaya deck, and that appears in some but not all of the Fires of Yavimaya decks.
This is my favorite part.
Alex is a Shivan fan. He's a Shivan fanboy, has been since day one. Since 93, you've been rocking the Shivans. 94, actually, you've been rocking the Shivans. Shivan Worm. Shivan or Shivan. Which one is it, Alex? Nobody knows. It is a rare from Plane Shift. It has no reprints, man. 3 colorless, 1 red, 1 green, Summon Worm. 7/7 Trampler. When Shivan Worm comes into play, return a red or green creature you control to its owner's hand. Obviously, I mean, this is just a cool card on its own, I think. Cool card in a lot of decks, any kind of deck where you want to bring something back to your hand, any kind of creature that hasn't entered the battlefield effect. I think it's especially great in a deck that has a bunch of creatures with fading, like Blastoderm. Yeah. Although, damn it, I'm thinking this again. As I'm saying, you can't do it with Blastoderm, and also you You can't do it with Sapperling Burst again because that is an enchantment that you play.
Right.
So listen to me. I'm discovering in real time as we're recording the podcast that all the cool things I thought I could do with this card, I'm not going to do, except maybe play this to bring a Flametone Kavu back to my hand and then replay the Flametone Kavu and then blast another one.
And I mean, I don't know how rigid you are with the creatures, like for this deck, but if you're talking about some things you don't have on our list here that we're talking about today, it would certainly work. Anyways, I love this card. I actually never saw this before. When I saw it in the notes, I was like, I got really excited. I like this is sweet. It's exactly what I would want for like a red-green, Herd Ape, lightning bolty kind of quick red-green deck. That prior to this was maybe missing like a real big creature. Maybe it had some, but they were like multiple green casting costs or something like that. I love the casting cost of this guy. He's only 5. It's only 1 red, only 1 green. This is the casting cost of Senastian Falconer, I believe. Shout out to terrible Senastian Falconer, who's a 4/4 Soul Ring from
How do I spell
Senastian? Just like it sounds, I think. Okay. Sunast.
Oh, okay.
IAN. Yeah, there he is. I bought this guy, and I was excited about him at first. I was like, oh, it's 4/4 and he's a Soul Ring. And then I'm like, I can only use one of those 2 things at a time. If you did have to tap him, he'd be cool.
Yeah.
Same casting cost as him. I'm not sure why that's relevant, but
it's important to bring up on the Old Man Magic podcast, Alex. Yeah. Anytime we can reference an old legendary creature, we're going to
look how much better this is than that,
And I was like, oh, great. You could use Shivan Worm to bounce back some of your creatures that have fading and then replay those creatures with fading. Well, you can't do that with Blastoderm because you can't bounce Blastoderm back because it can't be targeted. You can't do that with Sapperling Burst either because Sapperling Burst is an enchantment. And to create the tokens, you need to replay the enchantment or you need to play the enchantment.
Oh, but Steve.
In cases where let's say you do need to bounce something back with the Shivan Worm, you could wait until your Sapperling tokens from Sapperling Burst are about to fade out of existence. And then you could just bounce one back when you play the Shivan Worm. You don't care that you bounced it back because it was going to fade anyways. But now you're going to say something important.
Yeah, but wait, there's more. Shivan Worm has a ruling. You choose the creature to return on resolution of the triggered ability. This is not targeted.
Oh, so I could do it with Blastoderm. Bring it all back around. So Shivan Worm, like I said from the beginning, is great to use in combination with your Blastoderm.
In fact, in the comments of Shivan Worm, someone says, what's his drawback? Reset your Blastoderm, Flametongue Kavu, Thornscape Battle Mage.
Hell yeah, baby.
Hell yeah, baby.
But, let's pretend like none of that is going to happen. This is what you were getting at when you were gushing over Shivan Worm. It's just a great card for its cost. 3 colorless, 1 red, 1 green for a 7/7 trampler.
Yeah.
In a deck where you're going to have Manimals.
Yeah, you're going to have something low casting cost down that you're not going to care about having to bounce, really. Someone else mentions with Shivan Worm, Thornscape Familiar, which I love. I like these familiars, and I've been wanting to build some decks with them in them to reduce the casting cost of my other spells.
Mm-hmm.
So now your Shivan Worm is only red, green 2 to cast. This guy says turn 1 Forest, Llanowar Elves, turn 2 Mountain, Thornscape Familiar, turn 3 any land, and Shivan Worm, return Llanowar Elves to your hand. That's like a really easy turn 3.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great card, man.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. I'll definitely play it. It's like a Timmy card, but it's not like, it's still reasonably priced and efficient.
4.321 on Gatherer. 4321. I love that number.
Rating.
Current market price of $2.11 continues the streak of badass and also cheap and affordable creatures. They're often played in Fires of Yavimaya deck. Anything else to say about Shivan Worm today, Alex?
I don't think so. I think we talked about him.
It's just good. We did our talking.